Welcome back to the Kelowna Real Estate Podcast. I'm your mortgage broker host, Taylor Atkinson.
And I'm your real estate agent host, Matt Glenn.
Hold on. You are in a different office. What's going on, Matt?
I have an announcement. I'm going all in on commercial real estate. I am going to be doing exclusively commercial real estate from the second you hear this forward. And also, with that, I'm switching brokerages. I'm switching from Century 21 to Venture Commercial, a division of Venture Realty Corp, to focus on commercial real estate only. This is a big deal for me. It's kind of been in the works for a bit, but now is the time to make the switch and the announcement. I also have to start off by thanking Century 21 for everything they've done for me and are still doing for me. Like, I started my career there. They helped me launch during the worst time ever at the start of COVID. My career has been awesome there. All the people have been awesome there. Max, Anna, Shirley, Dean, everybody at that office. I've loved every second at that office, and I still do love it there. The reason why I'm switching is not because of them. It really is because of me. I just want to do commercial real estate. I have helped a lot of families move. I love that too. But I think helping shape our community, like Kelowna, Vernon, Lake Country, I just want to be more in the know of what's happening with businesses. And I made the decision to move over.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you. It's been a fun journey to work with you on the residential side, but agreed. You've been doing quite a bit more commercial in the past few years, and you've been getting very good at it. And likewise, the connections we're making, from the podcast, like we've had Chris and Jay on, and we've spoken to lots of people, obviously from the city and on the commercial side. It just seems like the natural path for you. So congratulations, man.
Yeah, so I agree. So like you mentioned, I've done decent amount of commercial. Like, we sold that 5 acres in Vernon on Anderson Way, which was a huge sale for Vernon, like one of the top sales. Through experiences like that, you just realize that you can have your say, or you put your stamp on the community. Like, I grew up in Vernon. I know the city. I used to run around where Anderson Way was now. That was a field when I was a kid. I have literally lost golf balls in that field as a kid. And now I've sold the land to shape it for the next generation. And I love that aspect of it. I love knowing what businesses are coming to town, like what businesses need to be here that aren't here yet that I can help bring here. How can I help businesses acquire buildings, land, help tenants, help investors get tenants. I've done quite a bit of it. I've been involved in a few different sales and kind of bigger deals. And I just realized I wanted to focus on that fully. And then, like you mentioned, we had Chris and Jay Wills on. I just looked it up. It was episode 95. And talking to them and just hearing what they're talking about, what their day-to-day is like, the things they focus on, and the people they know, and the inside information they had about how the city was growing and what was happening here. At that point, I had already done a couple commercial deals. I'd actually talked to them quite a bit. But just to be around people like that all day, every day, is just an opportunity. I just can't pass it up. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be in this office. Everyone here is fantastic. And I just cannot wait to get this new, effectively a new career fired right up. I'm super excited. And yeah, thankful for Century 21. At this moment, I have my personal house listed at Century 21. I'm referring all my residential clients to Century 21. I love that brokerage. I think it's great. It's just I need a bit of a change for myself, all in on commercial real estate starting right now.
Yeah, and that's the way to do it. To double down, Century 21 has been amazing for us, a huge supporter of the podcast. So thank you to them. And Emily still works there, and there's a lot of good real estate agents there. But I agree, if you're going to go into commercial, you got to go all in. It's hard to keep your foot in each one. And Venture Commercial is just a great organization. So super excited, man.
Stay tuned. There'll be more to come, but this is the official announcement.
Yeah. Well, I saw the little promo on Instagram, the little video, and they didn't show your face but very subtly dropped a little Kelowna real estate podcast.
That video was awesome. The only problem with that video is that I couldn't share it on my own because it would defeat the whole purpose of having a promo video if I did it. So yeah, it's awesome. I probably will share it at this point, but it's it's great. I'm super excited all around for this. So
great, man. To talk about shaping the city and commercial real estate and small businesses and, kind of having your finger on the pulse, and guests that we've had on in the past. Well, today's guest, who we've been trying to get on for a while, is Mayor Tom Dyas. It was a great show. I love speaking with anyone from the city. City of Kelowna has been also a really good supporter of the podcast. Yeah, he was awesome. He was very even keeled, and I think there's so many intricacies of how the city works, just the general public, we just don't know. Yeah, it was cool to share the platform with him.
Yeah, Tom was a great guest, great person to talk to. Obviously, super knowledgeable. It's funny when we asked him questions like, "What's the most pressing issue of the city?" He's like, "Man, there's a lot of pressing issues for the city. So, like, what is kind of the hottest topic right now?" And you just tell talking to him, he's super passionate about where Kelowna is going and what Kelowna needs, and our city is in good hands with him right now.
Yeah. And I mean, there is a municipal election coming up this year in the fall. So I think now's the time to start, speaking to people that are involved in that and start educating ourselves and figure out which direction.
So Tom, though, has not declared that he's running. As hard as we tried to get him to, he said he will in the next couple of weeks say either way if he's running or not. But you're obviously going to judge the mayor on how their incumbency is looking, right? And he's not afraid to talk about it. That's for sure.
Yeah. And there's been some like everything globally, but like, down to the municipal level, there's been a lot of volatility in terms of legislation, Airbnb stuff, DCC fees we talked about, property tax, like exemptions, how to stimulate the local economy, how to get developers building, the airport. Like there's so many.
Crime and safety.
Yeah, crime and safety we spoke about a lot. There's a lot of proactive things we're talking about with Tom, but there's also only so much, you can do in terms of at a municipal level, which that's kind of where the disconnect is for the general public. So yeah, amazing show. Obviously, we think everyone should be listening to this one specifically. So
you know what the best takeaway about this episode was? That we found out that Tom is a listener of our podcast. Everyone and their dog is listening, but you don't really expect everyone and their mayor. So that was a nice.
Yeah. And with that, hopefully getting a bigger fan base, Kelowna Now, here we come again. We're into the voting round. Obviously, we want to get the word out there and get a little bit of a pat on the back for having a best local podcast. So if you have the ability, please get out there and tick us in for a vote. Yeah, try and get the good word out for us.
Yeah, please vote for us. We've done bronze 2 years in a row. We need to get a couple spots up there. We need the gold. It's time.
So Kelowna Now, it's a bit of a slog to work through the website to get your vote in, but we would absolutely appreciate it.
Yeah. And also, while you're voting for us, vote for all your other favorite people coming through. Because, you go through, you pick all the topics, and you just go through. I went through when we were doing the nominations, I was going through. I was like, man, this is kind of cool. I can support all these different businesses by just clicking here. So, spend 15 minutes and do it. Obviously, do ours first, but get through there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, enjoy the show, guys, and get out and vote for Kelowna Now and prepare to vote for the municipal election coming up.
Yeah, a lot of things going on, and get all fired up for this great episode that we have with Mayor Tom Dyas.
Okay, welcome to the show, Mayor Tom Dyas. Thank you so much for joining us. How's it going today?
It's going well. And, I truly appreciate the opportunity of having this discussion with you. I have seen a number of your podcasts that are sent out live and other individuals that you've spoken to. Yeah. And so I was glad when you reached out and asked if I could be a part of your podcast.
Yeah, we're happy to have you on. We've had a few people from the city and they've all been great conversations. So let's keep it going.
Yeah, I've seen a number of them. So
yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Well, let's maybe start. I mean, obviously it's a Kelowna real estate podcast, so there's lots to talk about real estate wise, but I guess maybe in the last few years, there's been a lot of changes. Do you just kind of want to start by talking about, you being in office and what that's meant to you and kind of the direction you've taken the city in the last few years?
Certainly. I mean, it's been a little over 3.5 years now. Initially at the beginning, there was a substantial learning curve to kind of get to the point of understanding public operations as opposed to private operations. I was at a dinner last night, which was for the past presidents of the Kelowna Chamber of Commerce. And part of that conversation that we had with a lot of different kind of business leaders was the importance of when you're looking at doing any type of management control or looking at being a mayor, what is the structure that you do initially to kind of get everybody rowing in the same direction, so to speak. And the first thing that this council did and that we put in place was a very strong refocus and basically got back to the basics on some of the issues that council has to deal with. Really, it covered off 3 key areas, which kind of is that core element of how everything else is being steered forward. And the first one was with regards to having that right structure in place. aligning all staff members and the resources and our priorities all together and establishing action items so that we knew exactly what kind of the ground rules were and what we wanted to try to accomplish and how we were going to kind of action to get there. And the first one was in finances. We restructured how we budget. We restructured into service-based budgeting. And that service-based budgeting really worked on breaking down the spending of the city by services so that it was very detailed with regards to what we were going to deliver to the community. And service-based budgeting is exactly that. If you want to deliver more services, you increase the spending. If you want to look at, reducing the services, you decrease some of the spending. So that was very helpful. We established more audits. We increased our financial reporting. We started investing our assets through the Municipal Finance Authority and their pooled funds for higher returns. Then, secondly, we looked at delivery on our infrastructure. When we're going to look at delivering projects, what we do with those projects, project bundling, and an integrated project delivery process, which basically allowed us to look at the projects we were going to deliver and analyze them before we started to build on them. And that was in conjunction with the finances. And it allowed us to look at advancing things like the Parkinson Recreation Center, the Mission, Glenmore, Rutland Community Centers, how we looked at increasing our housing supply, and then also, Clement Crosstown Connector. And those things were all key, to look at us putting those items in place. So it's the restructuring priorities, the finances that we did, and then also how we deliver infrastructure. And collectively, all of them together are working in conjunction, and they're still allowing us to have one of the lowest and most consistent tax rates in the province.
I mean, anyone that's in Kelowna can comment that Kelowna's an incredible city and it's evolving the way it needs to. And you guys seem to be kind of the front leader when it is, working with the province. Some of obviously like some hot topic discussions right now are, Airbnb, DCCs, some infill housing. Do we want to maybe start with Airbnb since it's pretty relevant information right now?
Yeah, definitely. We were very, very grateful with regards to, Airbnbs and looking at bringing that forward. It was a project which was a year and a half in the working. It wasn't something that just came about when the province initially mandated that we were unable to have Airbnbs within our community other than principal homes with secondary type of residences. Yeah. We knew that there was a series of areas within this community that had been zoned for Airbnbs previously. Individuals acquired those properties based upon that assumption, but we had to follow legislation that was imposed upon municipalities. So we had to come up with ways, and we did that through different programs to accelerate some of the development within this community to increase supply, to allow us to get to a level where our vacancy rate was at a point where we were able to kind of match what was legislation that was put out by the province. And then we needed to advocate. So I know we make the announcement on one day, but It was kind of years in the background work to make that all come together. We now have within our community Airbnbs that would be available for principal residences that have a secondary residence within their community or within their building. That stays in place. But now we've established areas, specific areas, subzones, so to speak, within the community, and especially around those properties that were initially zoned for Airbnbs, that they would now be available to use and to rent out as an Airbnb. A couple of items there. One is their strata would have to be on side and in agreement that they wanted Airbnbs within their building. And the other item is that it's not a blanket Airbnb throughout the whole city, because we do know that there were many neighborhoods that were disturbed by having houses in their neighborhood that were treated more or less like a hotel, and they weren't enjoying their lifestyle within their own community. So we haven't gone to that extent. What we're doing is we've gone back. We now have the opportunity to introduce it back into our community. We're taking this step of the housing that was previously zoned for it and not doing too much, because we don't want to go to a point where the good work that we've done to get our vacancy rate up is deteriorated substantially by having a blanket amount across the whole city again.
Like, what happens if the vacancy rate goes down in the future? Does this null and void all these changes, or?
No, if it gets below the percentage again, would probably be a discussion that we would have with the province at this point in time. Yeah. And, we suspect that there may be a little bit of an adjustment on this, But collectively, with all of those zonings that we put in place, it has the availability of about 2,100 units kind of throughout the city if they all chose to have Airbnb. But they don't all choose to have Airbnb. There's only roughly about 1,000 of them or 900 of them that had Airbnbs last time or had a license for Airbnb last time.
Yeah.
And we have about 450 homes that have principal residences. So we know we're sitting somewhere in that range of 1,400 or 1,500 potentially available units within the community.
Yep.
When we look at the growth that we're having in the other areas with regards to the rental products and things, and again, this is a little bit of forecasting, but we think there'll be a little bit of an adjustment, but not to the point where it will, take us back to where we were 4 years ago at under 1%.
A little bit of an adjustment as in vacancy rates coming down again?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
But there's also more product that is coming online.
Oh, yeah.
And there's more occupancy permits that are coming into play. So
yeah.
There's a little bit of predicting the future, but it's also trying to balance out, both directions.
I think to be, fully transparent, obviously my position was I was pretty frustrated when obviously the province came out with their legislation, but then the city came out with, further restrictions. And it's, I'm not naive to it. It's not a very difficult position to be in terms of the city, right? We one have, investors that bought these property, and then two on the other side are, housing needs. So it's not an easy position to be in. But I guess what was the mindset to come out with more restrictions at a municipal level, above and beyond the province?
When Airbnbs first started and I kind of first came into office, it was something that we as a city, before the province came out with their legislation, we as a city were going to look at saying, okay, we truly need to look at Airbnb rentals throughout our community, because as many frustrated individuals as there are on saying, I'm not able to get Airbnb or I'm not able to rent Airbnb, we have just as many frustrated individuals within this community saying, I go home on a Friday night and, I'm woken up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because the place next to me is a hotel.
It has 24 people in the pool.
Yeah, some of the pictures I saw that I got sent to me from some of those parties, they were pictures which are showing that how they affected neighborhoods. Yeah. So we were en route to looking at making some of those changes because of the bylaw calls, because of the cost of our kind of do it. So we continued through that path, not knowing what we know today, knowing that we needed to kind of make some changes. Hindsight is always extremely, extremely powerful in these situations, but we knew that we were getting excessive disruptions within our neighborhoods. We knew that our vacancy rate was down below 1%. We needed to kind of make some of those adjustments because rents were continually increasing. There wasn't any break there and vacancies weren't. So to answer your question, it was just a matter of how do we best manage this at this particular point in time? Legislation, which came in kind of after the fact, and then changed everything substantially on, what we needed to do in process. And it also gave us a little bit of breathing times to establish a stronger route possible. And again, going back to the question about short-term rentals, I'm so grateful that as of June 1st, when we have, all of the events coming here, the Memorial Cup, the basketball, the BC Lions, BC Summer Games, everything. It was a lot of work, but I'm so grateful that we were able to. And the nice thing about it, not knowing if you know, but we changed legislation throughout the province. So before, it would have always been November 1st. And so we changed the legislation. So now it's reviewed in February, and any other community in the province, when they're looking at it, would have a June 1st effective date.
Oh, I didn't realize that was the whole province. I thought that was a Kelowna exemption.
It is a Kelowna exemption. We got the only exemption this time, but we changed the legislation moving forward.
Oh, okay. Wow. So only Kelowna this year, but going forward if you opt out.
Only Kelowna this year. And I was down in Vancouver with a bunch of mayors last week, and they weren't really happy about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is my personal stance with Kelowna. Like I said before, we are kind of the front runner in terms of evolving. So yeah, we appreciate the work you guys have done there.
Before we move on, were you working with Gavin Dew to get this done? Because he seemed to be pretty vocal about this issue.
I had discussions with Gavin, and Gavin was aware that this was a concern of our residents. But no, our alignments with our city staff and working alongside our city staff and working alongside the government, the minister, the ministry staff, all of those particular items was completely separate. But obviously, when any of our MLAs or any individuals who are in government recognize that there's needs within the community and they lean in a little bit, that's always definitely appreciated as long as it's always respectful, right? Because we were having positive discussions and kind of working this way for a long time. And like I said, it was about a year and a half or better in the working. It just gets announced on one day.
Nice.
Yeah.
For the past few years, like I don't know how long, 5-6 years, it feels like Kelowna was always at the top of the fastest growing city in Canada, or like one of. And now I think we're down, I don't know, to a regular pace. We're in the middle of the pack of growth. Like, as the mayor, like, do you want to see us at the top of that pack every year, or is the middle of the pack good? Like, I'm honestly just curious about, like, do you always want to be the fastest growing city, or is it kind of good to be in the middle of the pack sometimes?
I would say, top 10, but underneath the top 10, maybe if you got to kind of the top 5, there's a balance in there because you want to be able to kind of grow, and growth within this city and within this community is definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
And it comes back upon us to say, okay, how are we going to look at managing that growth? How are we going to look at advancing infrastructure that it needs? Everything from, water to sewer to parks to playgrounds to, facilities. So how is that going to be managed? And we don't receive from either the federal government or provincial government consistent funding to assist us to grow that infrastructure in order to accommodate our residents. So we do want to see growth because growth is good. It creates employment, it creates vibrancy, all of those other items within the community. But it's just managing it so that it's managed appropriately throughout the community.
And so with that, with the growth and coming from the Airbnb conversation, like obviously housing affordability is, probably one of the top things you guys have been working on. Has the vacancy and extra, purpose-built rentals and condos, is that helping with it enough to move the needle? Or, do you want to talk about DCCs now as well? Like, what is the city doing in terms of to be proactive in terms of helping affordability?
Well, when we look at kind of our housing starts, that have happened and where our housing starts were in 2024 and where our housing starts was in 2025, we have reached our targets that were put forth by the provincial government to look at reaching all of those housing targets. We basically built about 3,500 homes in 2024 and, over about 4,000 in 2025. So that is positive from that standpoint. We brought forward a number of years ago a program that allowed individuals to build rental housing, and they would receive a deferral on their taxes that they needed to pay for a period of 10 years.
Yeah.
It gave those rental buildings and the individuals who are developing those rental buildings the ability to make those projects pencil out. And we're seeing the benefits of that collectively kind of throughout the community, because a lot of that development is based upon them accessing that particular program. But we heard very loudly, and I do want to thank UDI for their professionalism in kind of reaching out to myself and the board and all of those individuals. And over kind of the last 6 months, and again, it's one of those things that you announce on one day, but you spend, months kind of through the process. And we kind of started this just around November of last year to recognize that building had slowed down. And with that slowing down, the industry was saying that it just wasn't a small blip. It was something that, could be around for a period of time. And we needed a little bit of help. So is there an opportunity to kind of lean in? And so we did lean in. Just a week or so ago, we reduced our DCCs by 25%. On whatever building is taking place, and it gives them a window of time of 2 years to look at whether or not this makes enough of a difference for them to kind of advance that project. And shortly after we did it on the Monday, on the Tuesday, I had received a couple of emails from a number of individuals who are looking at advancing projects within this community. And their words were that, this was potentially on stall right now because we didn't think it would work out, but because of our costs going down on a per door basis, it now works out for us. So we're going to look at, continuing this or advancing this.
Yeah. I mean, monetary value, it obviously helps, and it must help in terms of confidence level too, right? Like we've probably had developers in Kelowna that are feeling a little more restricted, whether it's the short-term rental stuff or just the cost to acquire land here. But if you have, municipal government kind of moving in that direction, like that's just a vote of confidence, right? So yeah, awesome.
The fast track infill housing program that we tried to initiate. Yeah. So when somebody's looking at building in particular areas, we've got that timing down where you're able to establish the permit, within a month. That's a huge benefit in those areas. The rental programs, the DCC relief, as a municipality, we are a portion of what the overall expenses are that, a builder or somebody who's building something incurs. There's, just inflation costs with regards to all of the products that they're acquiring. There's other type of costs that are outside of municipality costs. There's demand, which is a key part of it too. And that seems to be at a little different position right now. But I believe this industry has probably seen this picture before. And, we want to try to reach out to try to help them a little bit right now. And hopefully that little bit of an assistance gets them to a point where they just continue to, be strong once again.
Yeah. Like Taylor and I talk all the time, like what can come down, like land costs, building costs, labor costs. Like I think anywhere you can take it, kind of take the win right now. So
yeah, it is. There's that whole economics aspects to it with regards to supply and demand. And if we're able to kind of find a way to assist builders to create a little bit more supply within our community and the demand because of going back to kind of the community and how fast it's growing and things of that nature is there. And then the offshoots to this is we provide, the employment aspects of it, everything else that goes with that happening within the city. There can be a lot of positives there.
Yeah. When we spoke to Ryan Smith, I think it was almost 2 years ago, he coined a good phrase, like we're almost our own worst enemy because the city is developing, such beautiful spaces, parkland, like we're spending money on the infrastructure. But with that comes, demand that people want to live here, and then the cost of housing goes up. So what's the balance, right?
Yeah, and that's true. And then when we look at kind of the requests, so when we say, whether there's a park area or something like that, that's going to with established neighborhood, or whether we're trying to kind of develop and bring it into a new neighborhood, we'll look at kind of DeHart Park, for an example. That's a piece of land that sat there forever with really nothing on it, which is in an established neighborhood. That's been around for a fairly long time. We were able to realize that this was something that needed to advance because there's a generation of children and there's people that live within that community. And yes, it can sit as, bare land, but it doesn't kind of offer the services that we'd like to try to offer. And the spin-off to that is, hopefully that area now has become that much more valuable for somebody to move into and purchase. So, not only building, but also maybe reselling your house somewhere down the road.
Yeah, I mean, that park is full 24/7. Like, I'm not far away from it and my kids get good use out of it, but it is a valuable investment. Like, obviously it comes at a cost, but like there are hundreds of kids there every day. So it's awesome.
That park is awesome. Not just that park. There's a ton of new parks around that I think the city's been doing a great job.
Well, and it was interesting because I remember having a discussion years back, and somebody was saying that, the city has acquired land for parks, and DeHart was one of them. The other one is Sorso that, we're working on right now. There's a big chunk of land in there that we're working on. So the city has acquired land, but the land is sitting kind of, undeveloped and maybe not the most attractive looking or whatever it happens to be. And through some of that refocusing, we've said, okay, what can we do now to make, those neighborhoods, people don't have to drive somewhere else. They have those services kind of right in their neighborhood. And what can we do to advance those?
Yeah. With that, like in terms of spending money on, city infrastructure, bias, because, Matt and I both have young kids going into, school and education system. Does the city at a municipal level have the ability to like top up school districts in terms of like build schools, add, extra salaries to teachers, like to facilitate a better education system here? Or like with healthcare, like does the city get involved, or is that all provincially, federally taken care of?
A great question. And so the city itself, the lane that we are in, if we were to kind of look at our budget, and our budget has about 33 different specific areas that we are to look at managing as a city. And that deals with, water, sewer, landfill, airport, all of those particular things that we manage as a city. Nowhere within our budgets and nowhere within any of the, structure for any municipality does it deal with anything to do with healthcare. Does it do anything with regards to schools? And does it have to do anything with regards to mental health, addictions, and crime and safety, other than our RCMP force, our bylaws, things we do to that nature? There has been a downloading onto municipal governments to deal substantially with regards to the crime and safety area. Anything that we're doing to try to manage people, to, keep the community safe, that has all been downloaded upon a municipality. And we did a study just a while ago, and it was in excess of $2 million a year that has kind of been put upon our shoulders, plus how we respond to those. We can't control anything around addictions. We can't control anything around mental health. So those are all, Interior Health and the Health Authority. And with schools, it's all basically its own ministry out of the province. So we can't have anything there. With regards to crime and bail reform and legislation, we don't have any say in any of that. So to answer your question, no, we don't have any say in any of that. But can we assist in certain areas? Well, we deal with all of the crime and safety. With regards to schools, we have discussions with the school board with regards to land. Is there land coming available if they're looking at building new schools? But not anything to do with the development, offsetting their costs or anything to that nature. That all has to go through the ministry and stay in that area. And the same with regards to health authorities. They have an oversight. We are kind of a child of the province, so they have an oversight. If they want to come in, like the health center that they put in the downtown core, they can kind of implement and put in place without a lot of consultation with the city.
That's too bad. Like, obviously, if, we have a profitable city, good revenue, it'd be great to be able to allocate some of that there. And you do hear, obviously, people like this winter, it seemed like every other week, there's a break and entry downtown, small local businesses. Like, even for me personally, like, our house got broken into last week. Somebody came in the garage, stole my bike, a bunch of tools, and it really hits you. It's like, someone came into your space, but like, where's the disconnect in, I guess, the province to the city for that? Like, what are not that there are any easy solutions, but I guess what's the city working with at a provincial level to try and, add on more police force, or like you guys advocate at a provincial level and that's kind of where their funding comes from?
So when we're looking at the funding, when it comes to us for RCMP officers or bylaw officers or everything, that is dealt directly out of our budgets. So we currently, at this point in time, annual budget for RCMP is about $60 million. When we look at the auxiliary help that we provide to the RCMP, because we have a series of staff who are working alongside to assist the RCMP to advance, whatever they're dealing with administratively, it's roughly about another $27 million. So we know exactly what we're spending on RCMP and those services. Then when we add in bylaw and those other items, so it's a substantial cost to us as a community. There is no subsidy or offset that we receive from the province with those. There's a 10% that we receive on the RCMP kind of on a federal level, having them here. But other than that, the rest of the expense is ours. Smaller communities may get up to about 30% of that offset, but once they get a population greater, they don't have that anymore. So when we're on our own, what we do is we kind of say, okay, what is potentially within our lane? And that kind of goes through, what we have done with regards to hiring new RCMP officers. We basically brought in about 33 new RCMP officers. We've brought in about 18 new bylaw. We've hired new firefighters. We put a community safety officer that was a project initiative. So the project came in and said, well, if you establish a community safety officer within an area, there is an offset from the province. So we established one in Rutland. We've just established one in the downtown core in Midtown. So they're working. We've brought back the RCMP auxiliary program, which will be extremely beneficial to the community. We've initiated the CCT program. And then for business owners, and there's a substantial shopping list of the things that we have initiated as a municipality to kind of do what we can do within our lane, like the rebate program for small businesses in the downtown core or throughout the city, anywhere in any of the areas. If they have windows broken, we'll give them up to $3,000 to assist with regards to their cost on replacement, asking them to kind of put in windows that won't break as easily into the future. So everything that is within our lane, we're looking at trying to do. It's the things that sit outside of our lane, as I said, like the mental health, the addictions, the legislation. Those are things that we're truly not able to kind of, deal with. And, that was kind of one of the key reasons why I went back to Ottawa, And I was, I think, the only mayor kind of throughout the whole country who was asked to speak to the Justice Committee with regards to bail reform and the importance of, changing that into Bill C-14 so that there's more teeth and we're not able to kind of just do that revolving door continually of individuals working their way through this, continuing to cycle.
Arresting the same 9 people over and over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did kind of state the facts. We had 13 individuals within this community that had over, about 1,500 crimes. They all had about 90 to themselves. And so they're just continually, and the advocacy that we did was helpful. I mean, I've seen come up a little bit now and in some of the reports that some of the judges are turning around and not allowing that bail to happen. And yes, that's the advocacy. And just to kind of circle back a bit, it goes back to kind of what you had mentioned with regards to the schools and the school boards and all the rest of that. We really don't have a role in assisting with regards to capital assistance, but we have a very strong role in making sure that we speak to the ministers if there's things needed within our community or residents.
In your last 3.5 years at term, what's one of like the most difficult things you guys have had to deal with at council? And what's been kind of the most fun or like your best achievement you're most proud of in the last term here?
Without a doubt, I mean, the most difficult is crime and safety. It's a huge concern for residents. It's a huge concern for the community, for business owners. So getting a true understanding on what we could do here as a city and what we can't do and what we have to kind of advocate for. One of the examples that I shared recently with individuals was the tiny homes that we put into place throughout the community. I was in Toronto with the city manager and we were walking kind of the trade show floor. And in walking the floor, we saw there was tiny homes there. And we thought, okay, this is something that, we think there'd be an avenue for within our community. We brought it back to BC Housing and said, this is what we want to do. We want to kind of advance this. We couldn't get it anywhere. Like they wouldn't accept it because it didn't fit the model. We built a plan. We kind of built the case. We went back to them. We received it. We now have 180 within our community. And all of the service providers are saying it is the best item because we've moved 125 individuals through that 180 into either supportive housing, jobs, or back home to family. And then it's kind of backfilling from there. That one is one that I'm very proud of, to kind of say that is there. It's a spin-off to kind of dealing with the crime and safety element, but it has been the one that's consumed all of council to a great degree on how we look at dealing with that. And everybody around here has been very responsive in implementing programs. Perfect example is the rail trail. It took us a number of years to do it because it's not something you can do overnight, but the plan was there that we needed to make certain that that was opened up so individuals could kind of ride through downtown, get on there and continue to ride through, not have to go through the industrial area. That will all be reopened and redesigned. There's been some negative parts of that because it's kind of stirred it up a bit. So some of those individuals have come back out into our community. But what was happening within that area itself was not safe for our community. Without getting into the details, there was a lot of very, very unsafe items there that might have got to a point of, getting to a far worse place. So we've done that and we need to continue to build upon that. Now people with the way we've set up will be able to just continually ride along that and ride out to the airport or wherever they want to go. Then we've also expanded, been able to open up that section of rail trail out past the airport so you don't have to come up onto the highway and move that. It's interesting. You ask the question and it ends up being, it's just a matter of kind of what file pops out of my head because there's so many other things that we're kind of, we're kind of looking at implementing and doing. One of the ones that I think is great that has come to the community is the refocus that we've had on economic prosperity. How we've kind of established that committee, how we're looking at moving that forward. All of the Briar, the CCMAs, the Memorial Cup, the BC Lions, all of these particular items have substantial economic spin-off, and none of this is by accident. It's all by plan to say, okay, here's an avenue. People want to come to this community. Let's look at bringing events here. Now we're backing that up with saying, okay, let's make sure we engage with larger companies to build jobs here too. And that's what we're working at now.
Yeah. And I think a little plug for our own show, we had Doug Gilchrist on, I don't know, what it was 20 shows ago or something. And like some really informative stuff, like as a, local of Kelowna, you just don't really know what Kelowna is doing proactively or how involved you are to make the city prosperous. And like, yeah, he was a fantastic guest. So yeah, anyone that's listening, I think you should circle back and listen to that. And then in terms of, the future planning, what are you most excited for Kelowna? Like in the next 5 years, kind of what's your ideal vision of Kelowna.
To circle back on Doug's, I did watch Doug's and I thought it was very, very informative and definitely, without a doubt, he, digs in every day, in the best interest of kind of the community overall. So, good that information is being put out there because there's a lot of work that's happening. And that's why things like this are helpful. And I thank you for the time because it allows, individuals to be able to share or see a little bit of what's happening.
Just to stick on Doug for a second, the positives of our airport. We knew it was a positive, but wow, his episode was eye-opening for Taylor and I for sure. I imagine our listeners too, although they're probably smarter than us. But it was a great episode to know what was happening.
Departures terminal, the implementation of that departures terminal, the 1,000-stall parkade, which is coming, the new hotel, which will be implemented out there. That whole section, there is discussion right now where we're looking at kind of, okay, what do we do with regards to the next expansion, which goes beyond the existing terminal? How do we obtain the correct turnaround space and wingspan for larger planes to come in? And so when larger planes come in, now we have more direct flights to areas that we have to do connections to right at this particular point in time. Hawaii, Europe, things along those lines. So there is a lot of planning in that.
I lean more towards Europe right now. 3 years anyway.
Fair enough. That's obviously in my sights is something that's extremely exciting, which is basically like the Glenmore plan that kind of moves out. We've just opened up that particular area so that there's going to be a study. And in fairness, there was a series of about 4 or 5 different property owners in there. They came in, they had discussions with us. They said, you know what, we want to look at kind of planning this. The growth of the city happens to be going that way with regards to the airport, the university, employment. So that's very, very exciting. The opening up of Parkinson Recreation Center with all of the other centers in each of the particular areas. And Glenmore's broken ground and obviously foundations and things are being done. But the 2 that will break ground on in the next few weeks is Mission and Rutland. Nice. Lions Park, the development that's happening out at Lions Park, the restructuring of that to make it more community active. New management that Prospera Place will be in, into the future with regards to Oakview coming in and getting their feel on, what type of events and what they want to bring to this community in the future. So it's like I said, it just kind of pop-up card. Depends upon which one is actually kind of where we're speaking of, but there's a substantial list of positive things that are happening here.
Yeah.
Yes. And you can see it just driving around. You can see it.
Well, I think the optimism surrounding Kelowna is incredible. There are some obviously hurdles that collectively we have to get through. Homeless, mental health, housing affordability, but just an incredible place to live. So we appreciate what you've done so far. Obviously, there is a municipal election coming up. We'll kind of leave that there for now. We know you likely have an announcement to make in the coming weeks. And although Matt and I, self-declare ourselves as groundbreaking news journalists, whatever we want to say, we're just a couple of guys on a podcast. So we'll leave it with you. But thank you so much for your time today, Mayor Tom Dyas. And you're welcome back anytime, awesome. Obviously.
There is a lot happening and people get busy with their lives and they're doing what they're doing and they don't get kind of a chance to kind of spend the time to kind of see some of this. So that's why, the podcast is so valuable, what you guys are doing. And I truly, truly, truly appreciate the time. So thank you for just helping share that message.
Thank you.
Thank you.